I was crying because I didn't want to die, and I know what a brain tumor is. That's just madness. 31st December 2019, I was in a place of, oh God, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go to? What is the next step? Like, I had a lot of things on my goals list from the previous year that had not come to light, financially, relationship wise, different pivotal aspects of my life, and they were just not coming into what I wanted them to be, and I was just really panicking. That was the year, which was last year, that I went on a long hiatus. I took a break from everything. I ran away from things and people. I had like a dysfunctional relationship-ish. So I was just in a place of, oh God, I'm scared of 2020. What is going to happen? I just felt this immense fear, and I thought like the fear was, fear of my goals not coming to pass, fear of this particular things. But maybe it was my body getting scared of what was really going to come, which was even worse than all these things. Because honestly, when you're actually sick, when there's like a serious health issue, you're not going to remember that you need $1 million, or you need a boyfriend, or you need a girlfriend, or you need someone to rub your back. I think when you're not feeling good, all you want is to just be fine. You're never going to remember that you want a master's, or you get what I'm saying? Like, health is wealth. Anyways, let's just go into it. So I started the year a little worried, a little scared, all these different things I was worried about. And then January started off on a good note, career-wise. February, I got shortlisted for the Chevening Scholarship. I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, 2020 is going to be the year that I get everything I want. This year's gonna be lit and lit. Guys, March was when my interview happened, March 9th. And then I went for the interview. I came back and I had an event which I co-convened. I was also like the host. Was very successful. A concert, something I'd never done in my life. Literally everything was, was layering up well. And then to celebrate, I go to my friend's house. We hang out. We're chilling. Everything is nice. And then all of a sudden, I start to feel ill. Now I just realized that I missed a very pivotal part of everything. So remember I said 31st, I was very worried, I was very scared, I was talking about all these different things, I was very fearful. For the first time in my life, I can say that I heard God. Not a voice, like a man's deep voice or anything, but I remember that I was crying, I was on my knees, I was like, oh God, what's gonna happen in 2020? And I just heard, be still and know that I am God. I didn't even know it was a Bible verse or anything. I even thought I made it up. But it kept repeating in my head, be still and know that I am God. Because God literally knew what was going to happen in 2020. And it wasn't funny. So anyways, fast forward to, celebrating with my friend. 2020 is looking lit and everything. And then I start to feel ill. I start to have headaches, body pain. I'm like, malaria. I'm AA, obviously, it's malaria. So I take malaria drugs. After 1 week, I feel worse instead of better. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's typhoid, So I take antibiotics. Guys, self-medication is very bad. Don't do this. Like, I learned a lot from this experience and I'm going to be sharing. So I took antibiotics and I felt even worse. It felt like with every drug I took, I felt worse. And I'm like, okay, I've taken malaria drug, I've taken typhoid drug. I think it's time to go home, Faith. Maybe you need to go home and get to a proper hospital because what's going on? So, and then the next week was going to be the coronavirus pandemic. So I was like, oh yeah, coronavirus pandemic, all of that. So I'm like, let me just go home. Let me be around my family. There was the fear of coronavirus. Like, the numbers in Nigeria were going up. So I was even panicking. Do you know how scary this pandemic was? Like, in the beginning, we all thought we were going to die because people were making it. It's actually bad, actually. But like, we literally thought that it was the end of the world, everybody was gonna die, and so I was literally panicking and I was not even now feeling good. but I didn't even know what was to come. So I leave my friend's house, I go home. The first day I get home, I'm not feeling good. I already told my mom over the phone that I'm not feeling good, mommy. I don't know what's going on. So she makes food for me. I eat it. Even though the food wasn't even going well, but I ate it. And I said, okay, let me rest. Maybe I just need to rest. Maybe I've been overworking myself, from the conference, from the concerts that I've done, and, the scholarship interview preparation and all of that. Maybe that's what's doing me. So I decided to lie down. As I lie down, I realized I can't breathe. Like I can't breathe well. It feels like as I lie down, there's something in my body that is blocking my breathing pipe or something. I was like, I quickly sit up. I'm like, okay, did I eat the food wrong or what's going on? Like literally, it was very weird for me. I felt like my nose was blocked, but then I didn't have a cold, I didn't have catarrh or anything. So I was like, what's going on here exactly? So, but at that moment, I was still like, there's always a solution to it. I just don't know what's wrong with me. That kind of thing. The headaches were still getting worse. The body pain was getting worse. I'm like, okay, maybe the malaria drug I took wasn't good, because previously I had taken malaria drug one time like that was prescribed to me by the hospital, and I didn't feel better. And then they prescribed another type because they were like, okay, maybe I had a lot of malaria in my system. Maybe the malaria in my system is resistant to that particular drug. So I decided to take another kind of drug. Mind you, I'm not even supposed to take those types of drugs within intervals of themselves, so I was even panicking about that, but I wasn't feeling good. And then I think the lockdown had started, the numbers had gone up. I was even panicking about going to the hospital. My family were like, oh, let's take you to the hospital. I was like, no, I'm not going. Anyways, at first I was like, no, I'm not going. So anyways, I took the malaria drug. When I was done with the dosage, I felt worse. And then my mom was like, okay. I still had issues breathing. That particular week, I couldn't sleep lying down. Like I was sleeping sitting up. I was struggling to breathe. I was having serious headaches, serious body pains. Now let me describe the headaches for you guys, so you guys understand the level of pain, because I can't even comprehend the level of pain that I was in. Like I've heard people talk about pain, but it felt like there were a million knives in my head, and then somebody was inside my head with knives and trying to choke out or expand my head with knives. Like I felt the pain in my head, in my eyes, in this region, in my face, in my cheeks, in my ears. God, it was terrible. So my mom was like, you know what, let's not be scared. Fine, you don't want to go to hospital. Okay, let's call the doctor. Let's call the family doctor. Explain your symptoms to him. Let him tell us, what we can do. Maybe prescribe drugs or something. Maybe they can come to the house or whatever. So we called the family doctor, and then he was like, oh yeah, maybe it's ulcer, because I've had serious ulcer, and I have ulcer actually, but I've had a serious ulcer attack in the past that was very serious. It was bad. So it was like, okay, yeah, maybe I've not been managing my ulcer well because of my busy schedule, my life. So maybe that's what's wrong with me. And so he prescribed a whole lot of ulcer drugs. And then he also prescribes malaria and typhoid drugs. Again, mind you, I've already been treated myself for malaria 3 times and typhoid once. So he prescribes all these drugs. I have a doctor friend that I speak to as well, Dr. Yemi. Shout out to you. You were so supportive during this. I don't even know what I've done to deserve you, but I really appreciate you. Thank you so much, Dr. Yemi. So anyways, I show her the drugs, and she's like, oh, this is a whole lot of drugs. Like, sis, you're not supposed to be taking this. But when you are in pain, the kind of pain that you can't even do anything. Like, I couldn't function. I couldn't even eat. I couldn't talk. The only time I felt human was when I tried to sleep, and even sleeping was a struggle, because when I tried to lie down is when all the pain is even worse, so I was just in a lot of pain. So I was like, you know what, I don't care, I'm going to take all these drugs. So I take everything the first night, and then the next morning I wake up and I feel like I want to die. Like I'm struggling to stand. Then my mom starts panicking. She's like, why are you looking like something is wrong with you? Obviously, you know something's wrong with you, but why is it looking like something is unusually wrong with you? Like worse than what we're already trying to deal with. She was like, come. So she takes my blood pressure, and then we see that my blood pressure is dangerously low. Like, guys, think of how low. Like, the kind of low that we called the hospital back and they sent for an emergency bus to come pick me. Anyways, long story short, we didn't even give them the right address. And so, or no, they wanted to send, or they sent, and then my mom said she'll call them back here to give them the address. And then in the midst of all of that, I was like, mommy, call my friend Dr. Yemi. She's a qualified doctor. I trust her. She has schooled abroad. No, I'm not saying that schooling in Nigeria is also bad, but she has schooled in Nigeria, she has schooled abroad, she has schooled everywhere, so she has a vast knowledge. Maybe this is uncommon to Nigerians or something. So we speak to her and she's like, oh yeah, the drugs are too much. Like, you shouldn't have taken that many drugs. Like, that's what those kind of drugs can do to you. So she prescribes all sorts of things. Yeah, we fix that. And yeah, that happens. I complete all the dosage of the drugs. This is about like 5 to 6 different kinds of drugs. Or even more, I'm trying to remember. And I don't feel better in the end. I feel even worse. Like, I was just getting worse, guys. The breathing now was even really bad. Like, I was struggling to breathe. I was in so much pain. At this point, I started panicking because I've never felt that ill in my life. I've never felt that way. I was losing weight. My stomach was paining me. My chest was paining me. I could feel my heart beat everywhere. Like, my body was just, basically, my body was betraying me, if there's any word like that, So I was just like, hey, God, oh, hey, is this how okay, at that point, I was still even not like, this is how I'm going to die. I'm just like, what kind of timing is this? Why am I feeling this kind of illness in the middle of a pandemic? Like, normally, I would have just gone to the hospital, literally. But why is this in the middle of the pandemic when hospitals are hotspots for coronavirus? That kind of thing. And then I even live in Alimosho, and the cases in Alimosho were crazy. The qualified hospital that we could have gone to in Alimosho was also a testing center for coronavirus. Even actually, let me not even spoil it for you, but all the hospitals in my area were coronavirus testing centers. So that was like a panic zone because I'm like, I don't even know what's doing me. I'll now go and catch COVID. And then, so that was, going on. So, I'm trying to remember what happened here. So I started to feel ill. And then, so we can't go to the hospital. All the treatments are currently failing. So what is wrong with me? And then I speak to my brother Tokes, who's also a pastor, amazing person. Thank you so much, Brother Tokes. Shout out to you because you're really pivotal to all of this, honestly. So I spoke to him and I'm like, you know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. There's coronavirus. Why is it now? Like, why is this happening to me? Why? Like, why is it in a pandemic that I'm falling sick in this manner? Sickness that drugs are not working for. Like, mind you, each time they gave me a new drug, they gave me a higher dosage, like stronger antibiotics, higher grams and all of that, and I didn't feel better. So it was like, what did you say God's word was for you this year? And I'm like, be still and know that I am God. And he's like, why would they tell someone to be still? And I'm like, calm down now. I mean, everything is going haywire. And I said, no. Yeah, but God knew that there was going to be a storm, which is why he told you beforehand that you should be still. And I'm like, how am I supposed to be still when, as I'm talking to you right now, there are tears in my eyes? I'm having headache. I'm sleep deprived because I can't sleep because of the headache. The painkillers are not working. I'm scared of eating because eating makes my breathing issues worse. I'm losing weight. I'm feeling ill. I can't even be calm because even when I try to be calm, my symptoms remind me. Do you understand? And it's like, yeah, I know. Which is why God told you to be still, because you have to look at all of these different symptoms and still be still. I'm like, oh, when you leave me. So I leave him. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. And then I go back to my room. I think about it. Because one thing about me, I don't know if you guys are like me, but when someone is telling me the truth, sometimes I'll be argue. In my head, I know what you're saying is correct, but I'll first argue. And then when I go back inside, I'll not think about it and realize that, okay, what this person said actually makes sense. So I went back to my room and I'm like, okay, why? But all of it, because in the previous years, I have words of the year, and the word of the years in some years have always worked for me. So many years back, when I finished from school and then they didn't find my final year results, I've been on some not serious battles, but I've had some battles. They didn't find my final year results for some weird reason, and so I said I was gonna have an extra year or something like that. My word for that year was Psalm 74 verse 12. For God is my King of old, my working salvation in the midst of the earth. The week I got the call from my school, sorry guys, I'm deviating, but I just want to say this to put things into perspective and why he mentioned that. So that week, yeah, when I heard from the school that, yeah, you're going to carry over, you're going to repeat the year. This is someone that was first class student, the only first class student in the entire college. I was also the best graduating in my college and in my department. So I was supposed to be, and then they can't find my result. That's not ordinary. So that same week, I went to church, and then the Bible verse they read was Psalm 74 verse 12. And then immediately after they read it, the pastor said, there's somebody in this service, they will break protocol for you. Now, the way my school works here, if you even want to change a course, if you change it, you can't change your course like 2 to 3 weeks before the exam. Like after that, forget it. You can't. There's no story. You fail, you have failed. Like they don't joke with things like that. Now this was after the exams were completed. Summer was done. Convocation was in a few weeks, and you want to say you did not register? Because I registered, but they couldn't find my registration, which is why I didn't have any scores. But then the pastor said they will break protocol for you. And then that Bible verse, for God is my King of old, my working salvation in the midst of the earth. Long story short, they broke protocol for me, something they've never done before. And yes, a girl graduated. So he was like, remember, God always gives you a word, and he always has a miracle with that word. So think about it. So I was like, you know what? Okay, be still and know that I am God. When I heard it, I thought it was like, oh yeah, be still over training. You're going to get it. Get that kind of thing, or be still over all these things you wrote on your list. Fine, it worked for those different things, but it was more for this health challenge that I was going through. So I was like, okay, God, be still. I know that I'm God. How am I supposed to be still when I am feeling this way? How am I supposed to be still when my whole body is betraying me? Like, how am I supposed to be still? Do you understand? I was just like, how is this even possible? But I was like, you know what, let me just take a leap of faith, yeah? So YouVersion Bible was on my phone, so I just went, I checked the plans. I picked plans on anxiety, plans on be still, can't really remember the titles now, but plans on anxiety, plans on health, plans on faith and hope, basically plans to help me to deal with the anxiety, because my anxiety was over coronavirus, over my illness, over should I go to the hospital, should I stay here? Like all the options didn't look good, because if I stay and my illness gets worse and I die, they'll say, why didn't you go to the hospital? Now if I go to the hospital and I catch coronavirus and I come back, they'll be like, why didn't you go to the hospital? So everything was just crazy. Mind you, I'd forgotten there was something called check-in. Like I'm even happy that my interview came early, even though I was a little pained and angry, because I got my interview within a few days. Like I felt like I was unlucky, but God was helping me, because I couldn't have prepared for any interview or gone for any interview with that illness. Like, so God knew, God arranged everything. So anyways, I was ill, and then I downloaded everything. Then that afternoon I read a couple of the plans, like the first days. That night I prayed a lot of prayer, and I'm like, God, help me to be still, help me to be still, direct me, Lord. And then I sleep. And guys, I have like this crazy nightmare that I rarely have. And in the nightmare, I see this woman squeezing me, pounding me, choking me with knives. Basically, all the symptoms I was having, I was seeing her create the symptoms on me. Like, I don't have those kind of dreams. I'm not someone that will say I see visions or I have things, or even though there are points in my life where I might have had like dreams that kind of like come to pass, I never saw myself as someone that would have that kind of dream, you know, because I'd have said maybe a more spiritual person. I don't even, when people even say things like that, I'm always like, oh yeah, cool. But I had that kind of dream, and I was like, okay, the night I decided to pray, this is the dream. So it's God telling me that this is a battle or something. And then in the dream, I screamed, Jesus, 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 and I woke up. And I run to my brother and I'm like, God, this is a dream I had. And he's like, yeah. Why is it the night you prayed? Why is it the night that you're trying to walk with God, that you're seeing this? So God is showing you that it's actually a battle. But remember, he told you to be still, so you've won this battle. I'm like, okay. So I continue reading the stuff. I'm still very ill. I'm still not feeling myself. Basically, as much as I was reading those things, they were not working, they were not entering my head, they were not, let me not lie. It was not gelling because my symptoms were still there. So all those ones were just, let me do. So I'm trying to remember what happened here. So so I wasn't feeling good. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this fear. Either ways, I'm in deep shit. So I can as well take the one that seems safer, which is actually you could go to the hospital. So I go to the first hospital. They give me a bunch of treatments. I take them for about a week. The treatments were for 2 weeks. I take the treatments for 2 weeks. While reading all these devotionals that I wasn't really reading because honestly, I couldn't focus on anything. And then I did it for 2 weeks. I felt worse. The first hospital. My dad was like, okay, let's leave this hospital. Let's try another one. So we tried private, we tried government, we tried major, we tried teaching. We shall went to like 4 hospitals. I think 3 or 4, I can't remember. 3 or 4 hospitals. I think or 3. I can't really recall because everything was just in a blur. But we went to at least 3 hospitals. And like it was like 2 weeks interval. After going to all this hospital, taking 2 weeks drugs, injections, taking the one for breathing, the one for eye, the one for head, like all kinds of drugs. And these drugs are not even cheap. Like some drugs that just 2 drugs is like I think 5k, and then you have to take it for like 2 weeks and you have to take one morning and night. Like it was just ridiculous. Like I was just taking drugs, and it felt like with each treatment I was getting worse and not better, you know. Like I was hoping for some level of healing and I wasn't getting it. And then each time I go to the hospital, I'm going to risk my life, risk my family's life, and I'm like, you know what, hospital, do you know how many tests I did? Hey God, we did tests for cholesterol, tests for heart, tests for head, tests for blood tests we did all sorts of tests. Everything negative. Like the doctor would tell me, oh, I think it's this. I'll go and do the test. He's happy, like, okay, let me go find something. And then I'll see his face and he would look confused, or she would look confused. So like, you know what? I'm done with all these hospitals. They're talking nonsense. So I speak to my doctor friend, Dr. Yemi. I'm like, Yemi, because I was updating her all through, you know, because I wanted to have like balanced opinion. And she was following me. She was like, okay. She was like, Faith, you know what I think you need to do? I know that this is scary for you because you're already anxious, but I think you need to do a CT scan of your head, because that was where the bulk of my symptoms were. So she was like, you know what? Let's be sure that it's not the worst of things. Now, a girl is a Googler. So I went to Google, what is CT scan? And I discovered that CT scan is to diagnose things like brain tumor. And then the way they described all the symptoms, guys, I was like, okay. I was crying because I didn't want to die, and I know what a brain tumor is. That's just madness. But then I felt I was desperate to have something to hold on to say that, okay, this is what is wrong with me. Like, guys, you don't want to get to a point where you just want to know why you're dying. Like, that's how I felt, because at that point I literally felt like it was over. because I was getting worse and worse and worse, and the pain wasn't. I knew that something was wrong. I was losing weight. I was just getting worse. You know, I was speaking to all my friends. Everybody was praying with me. It wasn't working. I didn't remember that I applied for gym or anything. All those my other problems that I was having. Mind you, I had a friend of mine, Combat, who was very, very supportive. And so he would leave his house and come to mine during the pandemic just to take care of me, give me some sort of motivation, distraction. Like, he literally tried for me, but we'll get to that very soon. So, after all of that, I'm trying to remember what happened next. Guys, I don't know why my brain is not putting, but I know that I was not feeling fine until, yes, I got to a point where all the hospitals were not working. So my friend said, yeah, go and do a CT scan. I was really scared. I was like, you know, I'm going to do this shit. And it's not cheap, yeah? So I go do the CT scan. And then when I'm going there, I'm like, God, whatever they want to find, let them find, you know. So they put the stuff into my blood, one ballroom, I've forgotten what it is, something for them to be able to see my blood well. They inject me with it, and then I go into the place. I lie down. Mind you, during all this period, my mom was very calm. My mom is a very spiritual person, but she was very calm. So I should have known that for my mom not to be panicking. She was praying though, because she was really concerned, but she was calm. I felt like she had peace in her spirit, you know. So I went for the CT scan. I came out, guys, they didn't find nothing. There was nothing. Everything was normal. And I was like, okay. And then my friend is like, Faith, at this point, my doctor friend, she's like, Faith, at this point, honestly, you've done all the tests, everything's negative. You have done all these things. I think that maybe you need to actually stop all these drugs, stop all these treatments. Like, basically what she was saying is that it's one of two things. Either it was a figment of my imagination, which it wasn't because those symptoms were real, or it was spiritual, you know. She didn't say that outrightly, but I was like, okay. And then all my friends I'll talk to, when I tell them the symptom, when they look at me, they're like, babe, this is spiritual. So anyways, after my doctor friend says that, I'm like, okay, I'm in deep shit. So that night I sleep. No, I don't sleep because obviously I'm having issues sleeping. I can't, like, the headache is not from here. If I lie down like this, it feels like I'm lying down on a knife. If I lie down like this, so most times I'm always like this. Like, it was bad. So one night, I'm just thinking, crying. I'm like, so this is how my life is going to end. So this is what's gonna happen to me. And then my brother comes. And he starts praying, I rebuke the spirit of death in your life. I rebuke the spirit of death in your life. When a pastor comes, he's not praying for everybody. He's mentioning your name. No, you're sorry, Oluwa. I rebuke the spirit of death. I was like, did you dream that I was gonna die? Oh God. Okay, so I'm really gonna die, guys. Oh my God. I think that was like the lowest point. And then I was like, what? Wow. So this is really it. Like, I cried. And then I went to meet him and I was like, wow, tell me the truth. He had a dream. I was like, wow, he didn't know I was awake because he didn't want me to know. He thought I was sleeping. He waited till I was sleeping because he didn't want to take my anxiety to another level. And it's like, Faith, I'm telling you the honest truth. This thing is a spiritual battle. And the cure for this thing is to follow the word that God gave you. Be still. Stop worrying about it. Stop accepting defeat. Stop thinking you're going to die. Stop thinking negative. Focus on God's word. Be still. You've gone to all the hospitals. You've tried all the drugs. You've done all the tests. Are you better? Like, he was so angry. Just do the one thing. Be still. Stand on God's word. Read and confess Bible verses. Be still. Just do it. You've tried everything else. You have nothing to lose at this point. Just be still, please. So that all these prayers work. So I'm like, okay. Be still, Abby. I've tried on the hospital. I've gone. They have done tests. They've done everything. I'm not feeling fine. I'm like, okay, I'm not to lose. I'm not be still. it wasn't that easy. I didn't just switch because, guys, those symptoms. But I noticed that for every day that I chose faith, every day that I didn't focus on my symptoms, I kind of like forgot them for a brief period. Like in the past, my symptoms will remind me. But I noticed that on days when I read the word and meditating, I can have conversations with friends. I can even tell them about what I'm going through. Like usually I couldn't even talk. The moments when I was still, I could even have conversations. I could even talk about the pain I'm in. So I'm like, okay, be still, be still, be still. So I continue with the old be still. Anytime I'm having headache, like I'll be talking to my friend or my brother and we'll be talking, laughing, and then I'll feel a sharp pain. Normal me will just be like, oh God, I'm going to die. But I'll feel the pain and I'll be like, and you're like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm fine, continue. Like, that's how I was. Like, I was fighting it. I was like, I'm going to be still. I am going to be still. I am going to be still. Do you know how many plans I read? Yeah, I read plans, so like 3 plans in a day, like daily, 7-day, 10-day plans on anxiety, on be still. I was just like, I'm going to be still. I am going to be still. And I was getting better. My breathing issues, because my nose was swollen, it reduced. The pain that used to be all over my head was no longer in my eye, it was just in my head. I could sleep now. Like I wasn't feeling that knife thing. I was just getting better gradually. And then in June, because this thing was like March, April, May, June. In June, I get the Chevnin email, and I'm so happy. I cry. I think that joy boosted me a little more because I felt a whole lot better again. And then everybody was like, oh yeah, you're going to be able to go to the UK to do a test or something, so that even if you don't feel better or whatever. Anyways, choosing to be still over the next few weeks, I was just getting better. Like with no drugs. I threw up the drugs away. The doctors would call me for feedback, follow up. I didn't answer anybody. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to focus on this. I'm going to focus on joy. Mind you, all the things I worried about in the beginning of the year, finances, I started getting breakthroughs from nowhere. I got Chevnin relationship-wise. My baby came into my life. Like, my baby, anyways, talk about that one another day. But like, every single thing that I worried about came to me after this major storm. And then I realized something which my brother said. Like, I'm going to say my brother a lot because he was really my rock in the middle of all of this, you know. And he was like, when people are about to face a major breakthrough is when they have a lot of fights. I remember my graduation, so when I was about to be the best graduating, that's when they did not find my result. Like all through my 4 years they found it, but it's the final year they decided not to find it. Now I was about to get Chevron. Financially I was going to be settled. I'm married, and like all the different areas of my life were about to be settled. All the things I was worried about, crying about on the 31st of December were about to be settled, and I had to go through that. Anyways, I know I went through that for a lot of reasons. One, I know I've had a love-hate relationship. Not a love-hate relationship, but a complicated relationship with God. I've always just run away from the idea of me being a religious or spiritual person. Like, I'm always this person who I believe today, I don't believe tomorrow. But after what I've been through this year, I believe. Because I literally saw the power of just faith, having a belief. Like, guys, now I'm in the UK, which everybody was like, oh yeah, you come and do the test. And I can't remember the last time I had a headache. Like, there is no headache. I'm sleeping well. Like, I just want to say thank God for 2020. Thank you for this miracle. Thank you for this testimony. And I pray for anybody who is watching this, who is about to face a storm, who is currently facing a storm. I pray, oh Lord, that you will find healing. You will find miracles. You will find joy. You will find favor. Everybody that is praying for all of these different things I was praying for, I pray that they will be settled in your life. Now, all of the things I'm saying, I'm not saying that for you. If maybe you've been diagnosed with something serious, or diagnosed, I pronounce words weirdly. Like if you've been diagnosed with something serious and then they tell you to take drugs, I'm not saying, oh, follow faith, follow me. and be faith. No, God told me to be still. That was my own word. So I don't want you to take on my own word as your own solution. Pray to God and let Him help you. Do you understand? I've had moments where I'll pray for something, and then, like for example, in my school issue, that's Psalm 74 verse 12. Yes, they brought protocol for me, but I had to travel all the way from Lagos to Osun State to write the letter. It was that letter that God favored. So sometimes you also need to you also need to work. So I need to take treatments. It's God that's going to determine that treatments are going to work for you. You might need to go out and meet people so that you meet the love of your life. You might need to, obviously you need to apply for a scholarship, because scholarship will not just come literally. So I'm just saying that this is my own testimony, and I wanted to inspire you to ask God in 2021, what is your word for me? I don't know why I'm sounding like a pastor, honestly, because I'm not a pastor, honestly. I'm just a growing Christian, a budding Christian, but I just feel very led to share this. And yeah, if you sorry guys, so that comes the end of my 2020 testimony. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, share this video, because I want this to reach as many people as possible. So please share this. I want to touch as many lives as possible. I want to inspire as many lives as possible, and I can only do this if you share this. Drop a comment too. I want to know that you really love this video. I want to know that it did something for you. Alright guys, that's all. Bye. Why are you still here? Like, I'm just gonna be goofing around because